Hawkeye being a Christmas show was such an amazing surprise this morning. I'm impressed that Marvel, of all the things that we scoopers find out, that, it just goes to show you that fantastic surprises can come in any shape or form from anywhere. And many of you said in the comments on my trailer reaction, and I agree, that the Christmas theme makes this feel like a movie. Some of you referenced Die Hard, Home Alone. I saw a Lethal Weapon reference, but it even reminds me a little bit of Elf because, the modern hijinks in New York City during Christmas season, and Zooey Deschanel and Hailee Steinfeld have a little bit of a similar vibe. So all that is, who doesn't love that? That's just absolutely fantastic. We've been saying that Marvel, one of the reasons the MCU is able to have such longevity is that Kevin Feige does mashups with other genres. And of course, he's got to do a Christmas movie, or in this case, a 6-hour Christmas movie. This should be about 6 weeks because it's got to wrap up by Christmas, right? I wonder how deep into the holiday season it will run. It drops the day before Thanksgiving, so it's right in there with the holidays. This also makes this feel very different than other Marvel properties. So again, it has that fresh quality. And it's almost, some of you also mentioned WandaVision, and that had the sitcom angle, so that felt very unique. So I think that it's just, again, whenever Marvel does this, we'll see how much Sam Raimi leans into the horror genre with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But it just picks you up, and you're like, all right, let's go. I also think that it will be a very strong watch during the holiday season, maybe even get some people in who maybe otherwise wouldn't check out the show. Many of you said you weren't interested in a Hawkeye show, but now that it's a Christmas show, you're like, let's do this. And also, it could have a lot of rewatchability. People watch Christmas movies again every year. Well, people add Hawkeye to their collections. Again, it's like a 6-hour movie, so I hope it has, for some MCU fans, of course you will, but I hope it has that kind of rewatchability factor so that many of us will be like, you know what, let's watch Hawkeye again this holiday season. Or maybe a second Hawkeye, maybe his seasons will always take place at Christmas. We'll see. Now, something else which I realized while watching this trailer, again for my breakdown, was that I believe this is the first MCU character with a sidekick, in the MCU, not in Marvel. Although sidekicks are rare in Marvel Comics. They're there, but a lot of, most of the Young Avengers decided to be, younger versions of the character of certain Avengers without that Avengers approval, which is kind of what's happening here, actually, until he takes her under his wing, or his bow. But in DC, they have tons of sidekicks, and that's why Titans, which, Titans was like the first sidekick starting their own team. I love Titans, the HBO Max show. I was watching the latest episode last night, and I don't know, I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm watching a CW show, and I felt kind of gross. I wish that the DC shows, especially on HBO Max, were of the quality of these Marvel shows. Some of you thought this Hawkeye looked a little cheap. I think it's supposed to feel like Die Hard, like Home Alone, an Elf. I don't think it feels cheap at all. But anyway, but I still love Titans. It's a great show. It's fun. But anyway, back to Hawkeye, the Young Avengers. Because she is his sidekick, it feels very much like Young Avengers are closer than ever. So I'm very excited about that. And they're already on the board or about to be on the board. This is extremely comics accurate. I highly recommend you pick up the Matt Fraction, David Aja comic. It's fantastic. True team up. I want to point out to you that Kate has never replaced Clint in the MCU. He's an Avenger, she's a Young Avenger. He's on the East Coast, she's on the West Coast when she does become an Avenger. She's a West Coast Avenger. And speaking of Kate on the West Coast, I highly recommend another comic that you might want to check out. Hawkeye has a lot of good comics. I'm going to recommend 3 of them. I'll tell you all 3 right now. So check out the original Hawkeye by Matt Fraction. Then check out Kate Bishop's recent solo comic by Kelly Thompson, who did a fantastic job writing that. Kelly Thompson, not a lot of women writing comics. Kelly Thompson kind of has a very clear voice, so her work always, she's a little like Brian Michael Bendis. and he's done well for himself. But, she does one thing and she does it very well. And she was very well, like she wrote a Black Widow comic and she was a horrible match with that character. But she was a great match. She's such a good match. She should be writing dialogue for this show. But anyway, read her. It went off the rails a little bit towards the very end, but for a very long time, this was an amazing comic. So pick that up. And in there, two interesting things happened. Kate Bishop had to deal with Madame Masque a lot. And also she had a father who was evil. I believe, because Kevin Feige likes to keep things simple, he's combined those things into making Kate's mother evil. And I wouldn't be surprised if Vera Farmiga is Madame Masque. We'll see. I haven't heard that from anyone, but I think she's at the very least probably evil, because why else would she be there? She's not just going to play her mom. Also, speaking of Vera Farmiga, she reminds me a lot of Sigourney Weaver on the Defenders show on Netflix. And I think that this show, Hawkeye, this one has the strongest Daredevil vibe yet. It seems more like Plus, because Disney Plus, but it does remind me a lot of Daredevil. And we're wondering if we're going to see Kingpin. Yelena has been confirmed. I've heard Yelena is on this show. The end credit scene in the Black Widow movie definitely said she's going to be on this show. I don't know. We'll see how many episodes she's in. But Kingpin, there's been rumors about him on this show, but considering his adopted daughter, Maya Lopez, aka Echo, is here, just in one quick shot, we'll talk about her when we get to her. I think, we know that, I've told you that Matt Murdock's returning, so that world does exist. And that was a fabulous show. It was such a good show. So anyway, one last thing I want to point out is that women sure are doing great stuff for Marvel on Disney+. Bert and Bertie are two of the main directors here. They're a female directing duo. They look like they're doing a phenomenal job. Then, of course, they're building on the work of Jack Schaefer, Carrie Scogland, Kate Herron, and AC Bradley. And I think all of these women are not only doing an exceptional job, but you cannot tell that this is directed by a woman. It's just well directed or well written in some of the, with Kate, in the case of AC Bradley. And that's just really phenomenal. So I'm so happy about all this. It's great times. What a great holiday gift. All right, so let's go through this. So yes, New York City, the Empire State Building. It's all lit up for Christmas with a candy cane stripe. All right, so like everyone, I'm like, where the heck's his wife? So there's this 3 kids getting some Chinese food right before they go to their Broadway show. Or maybe they're talking about the show after. We'll see. But at first I thought maybe he was divorced. I was like, whoa, the snap took a toll on his marriage. But he says, hey, babe, later on in the trailer on the phone with someone. So maybe Linda Cardellini was too expensive or not available. So we'll see. Maybe she couldn't do it because I believe this filmed during COVID a little bit. So maybe she couldn't do it for that reason. So I am curious as to what the story context will be for this. But it's a dad day in the city. And speaking of dads, the father of this actress is Joe Russo. That's Ava Russo, his daughter. And I think this is a nice thing for her. I think she should not be Kate Bishop. I think Hailee Steinfeld is the perfect choice, but I don't know if this is just something nice to do for his daughter or if Ava actually wants to be an actress. We shall see. But she does look a lot like Hailee Steinfeld. So there's Rogers the Musical. Part of being in the city for Christmas is seeing a Broadway show. And I love that Marvel created its own. It's trending. People are so enamored with this. It's a really, really clever idea. Oh, but it's just so fantastic. So it captures the heart of a hero. An American musical for an American hero. Those are some of the slogans. They did a great job on this. I wonder if this is all put in digitally so that nobody would see that this was what they were doing, because that would have leaked for sure. It's brilliant. It was worth spending the money to do this digitally rather than putting up actual posters to keep it a secret. We have a shot of the play later. Oh, I can't wait to show it to you, to go over it with you. So he's in his apartment, and oh my God, someone's wearing the Ronin suit. Now, a lot of people in Marvel Comics have worn the Ronin suit. Echo, Maya Lopez, being actually the first one to wear it. It was not originally Clint's in the comic. So that's a good theme. That's, again, Feige being comics accurate. He's not always comics accurate, but he's comics accurate enough, and he does it in such an impressive, organic way that you forgive when he's not. Spectrum News, the first time New York One has been replaced by Spectrum News, which took over that channel. I prefer New York One. It still has the New York One logo. Craziness. All right. But this show is real New York, just so you know. All right. So he's like, yeah, remember when I wiped that blood you couldn't see off my arm because it's a PG-13 movie? She's like, is everything okay, Dad? And he's like, yeah, but you got to go away for a while. Yeah, he does have a hearing aid, as you guys have pointed out. In the comic, he goes deaf. He has an accident, and he eventually, I think, kind of gets his hearing back. But it's an interesting character struggle, and I'll be curious to see how they decide to handle that. Also, that's another reason to bring in Echo here, who's a deaf character, who might be able to maybe help him out after maybe they probably have a fight when they first meet, because there's a misunderstanding, you know how it goes. So, so they say he's retired. Maybe he hurt his hearing during Endgame, and that's why he's retired. We'll see. Maybe that's why he's like, I can't do it anymore. I just want to focus on my family. They were snapped away, man. I just need to be with them. So he's living in a pretty swank apartment. I love that. Isn't that gorgeous? It might be a hotel, actually. Is this a hotel? Maybe he's staying in a hotel. This might be a hotel that's in Midtown. I'll check the pictures to see if it's a match. All right, I think I know which one it might be. All right. They're like, are you really going to make us go home from New York during Christmas? And he's like, I'm afraid so. You're only supporting characters, if that. All right, so I love this logo. It's not only a bullseye, but it reminds me of Bullseye because of the color scheme that they chose. I think maybe they're going for a slight purple tint, but I see black and white Bullseye. And Bullseye, of course, showed up in the Hawkeye Freefall comic. Oh yeah, I forgot to recommend the third comic. That's the one it is. I got so distracted talking about the Kelly Thompson one. This was one written by Matthew Rosenberg, who actually also wrote a Hawkeye Winter Soldier team up, which was also very good. As I said, Hawkeye, really good character. The Clint Barton version too. So I recommend that comic to you as well. All right, and by the way, in that comic, Bullseye took on the Ronin identity to toy with Hawkeye. So he's like, what's going on? He's like, I made a lot of enemies. And you can see clearly that is Hailee Steinfeld. What a gutsy thing to take on this character. He's like, I made a lot of enemies he killed people, so I'm not surprised he made enemies. So she's fighting the bros. And I have to say, Hailee Steinfeld, she has a great physicality. She's very believable as someone who could maybe at least, I don't know how she could take on these guys in a hand-to-hand combat for an extended period of time. But I do believe that, she could, at least hold her own for a little bit there before maybe she gets her bow and arrow out. Although she doesn't seem to be using one at this time, maybe. But yeah, she lands that punch and blocks that punch pretty good. I'm impressed. It's believable. So he rips off the hood. It's a girl! What? Didn't the eye makeup she was wearing give it away in that eye shot? But anyway, I love the way she says you're Hawkeye. I mean, Hailee Steinfeld, she's a great actress. I'm a big fan, especially some of her most recent work. And, they're not continuing with her Transformers film, but that's okay. It was probably basically her audition for this role. She's a good action hero. She's great. He's like, oh man, now I got a sidekick. We're like, yay! And he's like, who are you? And she's like, I'm the best archer who ever lived. She can play a Christmas tune? I don't know how you could do that with a bow and arrow. I don't know what trajectory you could possibly do that would make it play a song. But she can do it, but then she brings down the whole bell. That's a great shot too. That looks great. I'm like, oh yeah, spotlight on her. She's so amazing. He's like, are you one of those people? I'm excited to hear the rest of that line. But I think she is. So there's Grand Central again. We just saw it on What If. So there's Grand Central, all decked out for Christmas. And so there he is. He's like, hey, babe, I'll be home soon. She's like, you're lying to her. Tell her I'm here. It is a little sketchy. One of you wrote, did Hawkeye just send his family home so he could spend Christmas by himself with a babe? And I'm like, that's not at all what's going on. But on paper, I could see it being twisted that way. So that was crazy. So we have the henchmen who wear leisure suits and they say bro all the time. It was very funny in the comic. So I'd be curious to see if they can make it work in live action. I hope they can because it's fantastic. So they throw a Molotov cocktail and I love that he catches it. I don't know how that happened. I'd be like, if I were those henchmen, I'd be like, bro, you threw it right at him. Like, what are the odds he would break the window right where the Molotov cocktail was coming? It wasn't even that close. I mean, that's just nuts. But I like that he catches it and throws it back. I mean, that is super boss. That's why he and Natasha were awesome and why they were able to be Avengers even though they had no powers technically. So I love this. Now look at that. He goes right by the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, which I believe is CGI imposed, to be honest with you. I mean, that's exactly what it looks like, to the point that I'm like, did you shoot with the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree? But we all would have seen that. I don't even know how much of the scene probably even takes place there. Some of it, a lot of it, I bet is CGI, but that's just really impressive because they have the tree fall down in the rink in a moment, and there's no way they did that. But that's just incredible. They're redoing Rockefeller Center. I'm a little upset about it because it's been so great for decades, and I think they're going to mess it up, to be honest with you. But we'll see. So I love getting very much like the comic, with the ice packs and all the different things. Now, because he doesn't have any ice packs, so he's using stuff from the freezer. Now look at this. So this is at Rockefeller Center before he jumps out the window, I think. So this is at some Christmas party. Oh, like Die Hard, because things go wrong at the Christmas party. And it just feels like you're at a Christmas party. Sometimes they do Christmas and it's in movies and TV, and it seems tacked on. But this has a richness of, I actually feel like I'm at the Christmas party. Like I'm standing there at the buffet table being like, this is great food and a show. So he's been captured. Which reminds me actually of the very first time that we saw Black Widow in the Avengers movie. I wonder if maybe they'll do some callbacks to that. So look, yeah, there's a leisure suit guys. Hey, bro. So I like the different parts of the city during Christmas too. People putting lights on their terraces is another really great cozy quality of Christmas in the city. So it's Kate to the rescue, but she falls on the ground, and I love his reaction. I think there's going to be a lot of good comedy here. Hailee Steinfeld is very funny, and I think Jeremy Renner can be really funny too. Look at all the memes he's generated. So I'm excited. And gifts. So look, they've got the Hawkeye H. So this holiday season. So yeah, there they are. So there's the one shot of Vera Farmiga. She looks great though. She looks very Vera Farmiga-y. She looks like she should be on Daredevil. And there's Rogers the Musical. Again, an absolutely brilliant idea. And also, again, they were able to keep it a surprise. I mean, look at this lineup. I mean, what a show. As many of you are saying, we would actually like to see this show. Maybe they'll put it on as a stage show at Avengers Campus. They're very good at keeping things current with character appearances. So there's, I wonder who's playing Steve Rogers. I wonder if it's an actual Broadway actor. But you can see there's a scientist from maybe the experiment that was done to him. We've got a New Yorker there. But there's Thor and Loki. That's just, and I like the swing on the Loki costume. What are those things swinging around his head? It's so funny. And then you've got some Chitauri soldiers. I'm not quite sure who the person in the green is supposed to be or the red on the left, but on the top, you have Hawkeye. He's in the show. I can't wait for him to see that. This also reminds me of when Batman goes to see Batman the musical, sometimes in the animated series and in the comics. A superstitious and cowardly lot is one of the songs from that. So again, damn it, Marvel got there with the general public first. Darn it! So you've got Tony. I can't believe Tony Stark's up there in the back. That's ridiculous. I mean, wow, what slander! And there's Black Widow also on the. Boy, those you think because they were Thor and Loki are still alive, man. All right. So anyway, there's also a shawarma guy up there, shawarma vendor. So hilarious. So then it says, I love this tagline: "The best gifts come from a bow." The marketing department. Chef's kiss. There's Lucky the dog. Oh, I love it. I don't know if dogs like to wear headbands, but he looks cute in it. So I wonder who this Ronin is at this medieval festival. Another one, just like there was one also in Loki, right? A Renaissance fair. So Ronin's there. We'll see who that is. And that looks almost like a dance routine. I don't even think he's actually fighting those guys. That's great. Maybe his son is into this, and that's what he's doing there first. We'll see. So there they are going to the party. There it is on the rink. So again, that's CGI. There's no way they did that. That's very cool. But it looks really good. CGI is incredible. And they even put up the little rink where you can go for VIP skating. That's amazing. I wonder when they did this. When they shot that they would even bother to put that up unless it was already up. I guess also because of COVID, there weren't a lot of people out, so they could get away with a lot of stuff. So that's the only shot of the two of them I think that's really good in the trailer. So everybody's using it as their poster frame. I like that their bows are a little different. He's got tape on his. He's old school. I love it. So there she is. There's Echo. So again, she's the adopted daughter of Kingpin. She's Native American. She's deaf. She has photographic reflexes, so she's basically Taskmaster. She was supposed to be the female version of Taskmaster, but now Taskmaster is also a lady. So I hope that one of them gets to have a really good battle, because we never really got that with Taskmaster and Black Widow, which the bridge scene was pretty cool, but there should have been one more, a longer one. So look, I love that they're in that car. It's very much like the comic, but I like that it's red because it's very Christmassy. Wow, I wonder how much McDonald's paid for that. They're like, drive by our billboard. Woohoo! going through a Christmas tree lot, and he's going through arrows while they drive. Very, very very much like the comic. I haven't read the comic in a while. Some of you are saying that's actually in the comic, but I love him going through the arrows, telling her which ones she can use, and they're bickering, and then she's like, "Wow, there are worse arrows than that," and he's like, he does that. See, great comedic duo. It is very. I guess that is also the Lethal Weapon feeling, of the reluctant partnership. And then, look, they got to go in the water. Oh, I love it, classic. Oh, look, the arrow goes into the Hawkeye. Oh, and the A in the Hawkeye. That was a nice graphic that I missed before. Very nicely done. And then he goes, I wish they have like some Christmas lights on it, but that's okay. They have snow. Who doesn't love that? And he's like, oh, this is turning out to be a crazy Christmas. And we're like, oh boy, thank you. So I just think that's phenomenal. I think it's really, really well done. So what did you think? Share your thoughts down below. Thank you for going over this with me. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.